Hey, welcome back to St. Isidore's Farm. Want to make a new video about pond aeration. Made a video last summer about the first system we bought, and I'll post a link to that right here. And then in the winter, I made a second video about that system and how it failed. We fixed it. Turns out we didn't. So now this summer we've gotten a new unit, and I want to do a new video about pond aeration. All right, so why pond aeration? Why do we do that? Well, as you look, we've got about a 3/4 or acre pond. We are in central North Carolina. So in the summer it can get pretty hot, and you can get some periods of time where you don't have rain for a week or 2 weeks. And when that happens, especially for us, part of our pond is fairly shallow. It's about 2 feet at one end, it's about 4 feet deep in the middle, and it drops off to about 15 feet down at the other end. But in this shallow end in particular, in the middle of summer when it gets really hot, the water temperature rises, and without rain or anything to sort of churn the top of the water or to stir it up, and we don't have heavy water from a creek or anything flowing through it, it gets pretty stagnant. The water holds less oxygen, which means it's the water quality starts to drop. You're going to have algae start growing in much larger amounts, but the fish will start to struggle. Obviously they can't breathe as easily when the water gets hot and there's not dissolved oxygen in it, and then that in turn limits the number of fish that you can have. So in our case, what we want is for this pond to hold a lot of, or as many largemouth bass, crappie, bluegill as it can for our purposes, for fishing, and periodically to go in and harvest, catch fish, and have them to eat, to have friends, family over, go fishing, etc. So the oftentimes first thought that people have is to put a fountain on their pond, and a couple of things with that. Fountains themselves can be fairly pricey. They are beautiful, so when you run them, they look from a scenic standpoint, they're very nice to have on your pond. And they do aerate the pond. They pull water up, shoot it, and that whole system is really great for your pond. But it's expensive. On a month-to-month basis, it is electrically more expensive to run a fountain because water is heavier than air, and you're having to, when you push that water up from the bottom of the pond or from wherever it is up out into the air, that just takes more energy to do. So pond aerators are much more efficient systems, and it's simply taking an air compressor, running hoses out into your pond with some type of a diffuser on the end, and putting air bubbles into your pond. So our solution, as you saw in the first video last year, was that we bought a Big Max aerator system off of eBay. They have a company, they sell from a website, or you can call them, but they also sell on eBay and tend to sell it cheaper. So for about $350, we got a Thomas Industries remanufactured air compressor, which they say up front that it's remanufactured, 200 feet of hose, and 2 diffusers. So I'll show you again. You can watch the previous video about that system, but let's look at this one. Now, when you go to most websites that sell pond equipment, you'll see that they have systems, much bigger systems, oftentimes for I don't know, $1,200, $1,500 for the compressor, hoses, diffusers, and typically some kind of a housing for that compressor. So we didn't have $1,200 to spend on an aerator. So when I found this, I thought it was a good deal, looked to be the same thing. I could create a housing for the unit, and hopefully we save about $900 or $1,000. So this is what we got. This is that Thomas Industries unit. There are, as best I can tell in doing some research, there's about 4 different manufacturers of this type of compressor that is supposed to be designed as a continuous run compressor, 24/7 unit. This is how it arrived to us, which you have a plug with just the wires on it and 2 wire nuts to connect to the motor, and a free hanging motor run capacitor that came with it. And this is what you got. There was no literature that came with the unit in the box. There was nothing to say what you should or shouldn't do, what the housing should or shouldn't be, how often you should run it or not. What we did, my solution, simple solution, was, as you saw in the video, the other video, was to buy a Rubbermaid container, drill hundreds of holes around the side of it so that it could get air, 1, to cool the unit, 2, so that it would have air to push into the hoses out into the pond. When we first put it in, it was the middle of the summer. We did not run it 24/7 because it was hot. When it's 90 or 100 degrees, it doesn't make sense to push hot air into the pond and therefore make the pond water even warmer, even hotter. So we only ran it at night from sunset to sunrise, when the temperature would drop. It'd be down to about 70 degrees and push actually cooler air into the pond and hopefully help cool off the water a little bit. It ran effectively for really that whole summer, every night during the remainder of the summer through the fall. In the winter, we started running it 24/7 when it was colder at night. And that's the second video you'll see where we had the first problems with the unit. Woke up one morning, could tell that the diffuser was not, the aerator was not running. Came down to look at it. You'll see in that video there's snow on the ground, so it was cold. And as some people have asked or wondered, did the unit overheat? Well, it didn't overheat during the summer, but when I took the lid off of the Rubbermaid container, that capacitor had exploded. You can see the remnants of the inside of the capacitor on the side of this unit. I'm gonna go ahead and plug it in. You'll hear this is not as loud as the unit was initially. You'll see that in the first video. It's quite a bit louder. This is now, even after replacing the capacitor, you can see that, I mean, you'll hear it. It's still fairly loud, and it's louder than the new unit that we got. But you'll see as it starts running, this is not, it's barely putting air out. So we're not getting much flow, and you'll see that this thing is going to start to slow down. You can hear the strain on the motor, and if it does what it has been doing ever since then, it's going to start smoking here in a second. It's going to start freezing up, getting hot and freezing up. In fairness to the company, I don't know if this is, I mean, it was rebuilt once, so I don't know if this is just a defective, compressor, but clearly you're going to see here in a few seconds why this unit failed and why we had to replace it. So it should, it's going to probably start smoking. It's already too hot to touch in that short of a period of time. So now you can start to see there is smoke starting to come out of or pour out of this compressor. And the longer you leave it running, the more smoke is going to come out of here, which probably explains why this thing exploded inside, and well, it shut off already, shut itself off, and you can see it smoking. Obviously, I do not recommend buying a remanufactured compressor from or the Big Max aerator unit. It is just not really happy about this. You know, I'd like to say it's one of those situations where you get what you pay for, but for not much more money, we have found a far better solution with a little bit more research. So let's look at this. This is what we got this week. After doing more research online on pond aeration, it's one of those things where you spend enough time on the internet looking, eventually you find things that you didn't see the first time. And I did a fair amount of research last year when we got that unit, but I found this, which is a Hiblow HP 100 LL, or long life, and got this from Septic Solutions out of, I guess you give them a free plug, they put their sticker on the side of the unit, out of Illinois. About $400 for this unit. Got it pretty, that was the cheapest I could find. It was through them with free shipping, and they got it to us in 2 days, which was cheaper than I could get it on Amazon or anywhere else. The Hiblow, this is designed for aerated septic systems, which is, I suppose, why it didn't come up in my initial searches or solutions for a continuous run pond aerator. But Hiblow company does sell these for the purpose of pond aeration. If you go to their website, they have data and information on there. They have a lot of different HP 20, 40, 60, 80. It's about the HP 80 and up, HP 100, HP 120, and beyond that they recommend for pond aeration purposes. This unit is pushing about a little over 4.3, I think, cubic feet of air per minute. And I'm going to plug it in while we're talking about it, and you can hear how much quieter it is. If you can hear noise in the background, that is our neighbors, the farm, our neighboring farm that has a greenhouse on it. That's the fan on their greenhouse running, which is much louder than this unit now. If you can hear it, as I can get a little bit closer. About 10 feet away, you can't even hear this compressor. So this is how it comes, which has a sealed cord going back into it. It's in a weatherproof housing. It's designed to sit out in the air, so you don't have to build a housing for it, although I think it is recommended. We are going to be putting it in, building a duck house here, and I'm going to put it into that, not enclosure, but out of the elements as part of that. But the nice thing is you can set it out. It has rubber feet underneath it, so that when it's sitting here, you're not getting vibration. It sits very still. It's very, very quiet. It has a plastic outlet that is part of this housing that comes off, and they supply you with this 90-degree tube, just a soft, flexible rubber tube with a spring clamp is all that's on here to hold that on. You really don't even need it, because if I take this off, you don't have any air leaking. We used a section of the weighted 3/8 ID hose that we had, cut it, put it in here with a hose clamp, went to Lowe's and got this T fitting to split it, because we have 2 hoses and 2 diffusers. But we've had this running for continuously 24/7 for several days, and that's the nice thing about this. These are designed for septic systems where these units run 24/7. One of the reviews that I saw online for this said somebody had one and it had run for 10 years before they had issues with it. If there are issues with it, the other nice thing versus the other compressor, the nice thing about this is that I've already seen that the replacement parts for the diaphragms, the air filter that is inside of here are readily available, and they're inexpensive. And the whole thing seems to be designed, you just got 4 screws for this upper cover to take off. The air filter is right underneath here. It's just 1 screw. You take this off, replace the air filter, clean it every 6 months, replace it every year. But if the diaphragm should fail after, I guess, I'm hoping a very long life, as the name implies, that it seems easy enough to take this cover off and buy the diaphragm replacement kits. And it seems definitely like a do-it-yourself repair. You don't have to send it off or replace the whole unit. So based on short experience of a week, I would highly recommend this unit instead if you're going to get it. Just the whole thing about it is much better design and far more efficient. That's the other thing. Electronically, it's also a much more efficient unit. It'll use less electricity than the compressor we had last year. All right, let's go look at hoses. Talk about hoses and diffusers. So the unit we got last year came with, it had 2 hoses. It had 100 feet of self-weighting hose and 100 feet of unweighted hose. So the unweighted hose is pretty thin, and when I had talked to a guy at the company, he made the recommendation. He said, look, it's a lot cheaper, get the regular hose, go to Lowe's, buy a big box of 5/8 inch nuts, galvanized nuts, slide them on, tape them, and that'll be enough to weight the hose down. No, it's not. because when that hose has air in it, which is what it's pushing, it's going to float up, and it floated those nuts up. I mean, perhaps I could have bought more of them, put them every 6 inches or something. I suspect that probably would be cheaper in the long term. But the hose is really thin. The wall of the hose is really thin. So just the quality of it to me was not worth it. The other hose that I would recommend, it's a bit more expensive, is to get this self-weighting hose. And this is a 3/8 inch interior diameter, and you can see it's just a much thicker, walled, heavy rubber hose. You can find these online. Looking about $100 for 100 feet. Is about the cheapest that I've seen this. So it is pretty pricey for a hose, but the nice thing is you set it out there and it will immediately sink to the bottom, and you don't have to mess with it or do anything else with it. So the compressor is running, air is coming out. I want to show you just what this looks like when you set it just straight into the water. Even if you didn't have a diffuser and just put it into the water, this is what you're going to see. So it is pushing, again, a fair amount, and that's with another hose and a diffuser running out. So this is 2 hoses, and you see how much air you're getting coming out of this. So this is pretty, it's creating a lot of turbulence in the water. It's certainly breaking up the surface of the water, which is pretty nice. If you live in colder climates and you had a lot of fish and you wanted to keep it from freezing over completely, any type of aerator system would be good, because it'll keep the water from freezing, at least in a small area. So if we take this out, that is good, but the idea really in aquaculture, if you look at any places where they're raising fish in systems, what you want is small bubbles, a lot of tiny bubbles to diffuse into the water and get more diffused oxygen into the water, rather than these big, huge bubbles coming up to the top. So did some research online. If this is what came with the system we got last year. This is a heavy rubber hose. It's a soaker hose, a fairly heavy soaker hose, thick wall. I can't compress it with my fingers, so it's pretty stiff. They put ball bearings in here to help weight it down. When we initially connected this new compressor with the hose, it was perhaps not enough high enough pressure compressor to actually get air to come through the holes in the soaker hose. So I looked online to try and find, and if you were going to look for a diffuser to put into your pond, one of the ones that I found that I think was kind of the best that I had seen was an alumina air stone. It was about 12 inches long, 1.5 inches square. And you could get them, websites I found with shipping, you could get them for about $35, $38 with shipping. And because it's a stone, it's self-weighted. You drop it out, it'll go down to the bottom, and it will, they say you have to, they'll work with as low as 1 cubic foot a minute of airflow. So this pump will obviously at 4.3 cubic feet per minute, even with 2 of them, would be more than enough to still work with that air stone. But Isaac, the cameraman, had a great idea. He said, well, rather than order those, why don't you try drilling some holes in these existing diffusers that we have? So I took a 3/64 drill bit, drilled a ton of holes around the top of it, and you can see the difference when we connect this on here and set it into the water, is that now what we get is a bunch of tiny little holes, and as we drop this down, you'll get a column from the bottom of the pond, a column of tiny bubbles coming up to the surface. And the way this works ideally is that when you've got something down at the bottom like this pushing water and air up, and it's creating a current going up to the top of the surface, as it comes up, you can see it's creating ripples in the water that will push all the way across the pond to the edge. And as it's pulling up from the bottom, you create a circulating current, a donut, 360 degrees of pushing water back around and aerating the whole pond. And for us, we'll have 2 of these. Obviously take it out in the canoe, and drop it in the middle of the pond. If you didn't have that, you could take a string, a really cheap, inexpensive kind of twine or string, and just loop it through it. You wouldn't want to tie it on there because you'd have a string stuck all the way to the edge of your pond. But just loop it through there and have somebody walk around and pull with the string, and have somebody pull the diffuser out into the middle of the pond. When you get it where you want to, just let go of one side and pull the string back out, and it will drop down. So that is it from our pond. Oh, somebody doesn't want to be held. I hope that helps in terms of what I would now highly recommend, and I'll do another video in say 6 months or a year and see how this compressor, hopefully this compressor is still running, that it doesn't overheat and blow up. But again, because it's designed for systems, septic systems that run continuously 24/7, I don't think we're going to have the issue that we had with the other unit, because it's an enclosed system meant to be outdoors and running. So I will say this, the nice thing, the difference in this pond, the first year we came out here and tried fishing on this pond, when we came out, we caught no fish. I actually didn't think there were any fish in the pond, that it was stocked, because we couldn't catch any fish. And it was just, the water was hot, and
algae?
Yeah, there was algae, and the fish were obviously just sitting at the deepest parts of the pond. We didn't get anything. With that aerator, even though it failed for the time that it was running in that year, this became a much more productive. There were fish in here. In fact, there's a lot of fish in here, and with air in it and movement and a better water quality, we actually started to catch fish, and catch a lot of fish. And now it's gotten to the point where you can really start to see largemouth bass swimming along the shore of the pond. So it will hold more fish, which is for us what we wanted, but it's also improved the quality of the water, in that we don't have algae. I mean, you can look down, we don't have any algae growing all along the shore of the pond anywhere. Of course, the ducks have helped with that as well, to eat some of it, eat a lot of the algae. And it's just a healthier pond, and it will be a healthier pond. So I'd recommend it to you if you've got a situation like this where you don't have a lot of water flowing into it, or anything that's helping to turn the water, to consider a pond aeration system. And I would highly recommend this Hiblow system. It seems really well reviewed. They seem to last a long time and be worth the money. And $400 plus a couple $100 in hoses and diffusers is a lot better than $1,200 or $1,500 for some of those other systems that are a lot larger. That's it. Hopefully this was a helpful video. If you were interested in a do-it-yourself pond aeration, thanks for watching, and God bless.